sympathy. I'd rather run the other way than stay and see the smoke and who's still standing when it clears. Everyone knows I'm in over my head with 8 seconds left in overtime. She's on your mind, she's on your mind. Let's rearrange. I wish you were a stranger I could disengage. Just say that we agree and never change. Soften a bit until we all just get along. That's disregard. You find another friend in your discard as you lose the argument in a cable car, hanging above as a canyon comes between. Everyone knows I'm in over my head with 8 seconds left in overtime. She's on your mind, she's on your mind. Everyone knows I'm in over my head with 8 seconds left in overtime. She's on your mind, she's on your. Well, suddenly I become a part of your past, becoming the part that don't last. I'm losing you and it's effortless. Without a sound, I'll lose sight of the crown and throw around. Never thought that you wanted to bring it down. I won't let it go down till we tortured ourselves. And everyone knows I'm in over my head with 8 seconds left in overtime. She's on your mind, she's on your mind. Everyone knows she's on your mind. Everyone knows I'm over my head, I'm in over my head, I'm over my. Everyone knows I'm in over my head with 8 seconds left in overtime. She's on your mind, she's on your mind.
We're in over our heads, drowning in depression, anxiety, and loneliness. Can spirituality throw us a lifeline? Yes. Will it? Remains to be seen. Tonight, spirituality and mental health. Welcome to Collective. We are so glad you're with us. I'm glad you're with us. I'm Ben. I'll be your host here in beautiful downtown DeLand. And welcome to our living room from anywhere in the world at wearecollectivechurch.com. Hopefully you're chatting with us on Facebook. If you're over on YouTube, you're getting a better quality experience, but you don't have anyone to chat with. So jump over to Facebook. We'd like to know you're here. Welcome along. You can join us, stay subscribed, all that good stuff. We have an amazing service for you tonight. Fred is back in the room, our artist in residence. Hey, Fred. Kenny is with us. Dan is covering the coffee bar. I don't think he's scheduled, but yeah, he'll make you a drink because he loves you. Some of us, we've done this hundreds and hundreds of times, and some of you guys maybe not even with us particularly, but your first time in anything like a church in a long, long time or maybe ever. That takes a tremendous amount of courage, so thank you. We want to honor that courage and say thank you for continuing to be here with us. Your presence makes us who we are. Welcome. We're here to do good work. We call it spiritual formation. Really what we're talking about is making a good life as good people. So that's good work. Part of that good work is figuring out how in the world to raise kids who are better than we were. So Jordan, we hope you have the answers to that. Miss Jordan is our collective kids person. Excellent, thank you, Jordan, awesome. If the kids would like to go, we've got Miss Kelly's in back with the littles through 5-year-olds, and then Jordan's got stuff for 6 to 11-year-olds. Most of them are probably already back there. Anybody else that wants to go with Miss Jordan, they can. Sweet. All right, Kenny.
All right.
Or is that back to me?
No,
that's
it's
you.
time for the community statement.
Yeah.
So we are all collective church. Would someone like to read the statement? All right, Annabelle.
Yeah, Annabelle.
Yeah.
No, you gotta. Come and be seen. Testify.
Scream across the room.
Hello. The community statement. We value highly the metaphor of journey. We're different people from different places and backgrounds representing an intergenerational community, and we've traveled different paths. So we agree not to make assumptions about the person across from us, next to us, or in conversation with us. We challenge ourselves to be sensitive, knowing this community includes a diverse group of people from lifelong followers of Jesus to people who are just now open to the idea that God might exist. We strive to avoid offense, ask good questions, articulate and explain our responses. We don't assume fluency in Bible, spirituality, or church language because we believe the message of Jesus is not for Christianity, but for humanity. So we do everything in the spirit of love and grace.
Travel different paths with beautiful people with messy pasts. So have no fear, no judgment here. Whether you believe in Jesus or don't believe in anything, something you can teach us. You belong, no right, no wrong. Solidarity helps us to find some peace in the great unknown. You don't have to be alone. Leaning into grace. Help us make a place with an open table where no one's turned away. With love without why. No one has to hide. Finding God in people. Sharing hearts as equals. Where you are held in line. Good news is on your side.
It and sung it. Now let's get connecting. It's hard to build a movement if you don't know who's in it, so we're going to talk to each other. If you're willing to share with someone next to you, quick answers, 3 minutes on the clock, I will be online. You can give me a shout out and let me know you're with us. Send me answers to our questions, which are this evening: how would you summarize your current ideas about mental health? And have these always been your ideas?
Interesting questions, Kenny.
Questions for 3 minutes.
Yeah, you guys should have just about solved it by the time we get to like 2:30. So then. Okay, so everybody's ready. Go. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Or whenever we tell you that is. All right, let's finish our thoughts. I'm eager to hear about the conversations. Whoever's sharing, let them finish those thoughts. All right. We're going to come back to that. Pull that down a bit. It's kind of tinny again. All right, we're going to come back to those conversations, but let's talk about how we practice together. Let's get connecting, Kenny.
Okay. All right. So we've said it, sung it, we've connected.
Oh, did we have anyone online that wanted to contribute?
Jay's still having issues with the Facebook chat.
Curses.
We did have a couple of reflections.
All right.
So John Scott
Awesome.
said it's a hard question to even begin to frame, and harder still to imagine an idyllic state of mental health that we could reference. Seems now that screwed mental health is endemic to the human condition as the common cold. And Jess Garrett says, for me, mental health changes by the moment, and it's just staying focused on the now and enjoying the little good things: friends, family, wholesome food, crafting. And Jay says that He's for mental health now and has been for as far as back as he can remember. And when I asked him to define what he meant by mental health, he said the best general short definition is serenity.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, as far as connecting through the week, it starts with an email. You can subscribe and select the rundown as well as your preferences, and then the weekly rundown becomes your custom dashboard for practicing together. So you can subscribe by visiting the website and plug in your email and your name. We'll get back to you, and you can customize your experience from there. Coming up tomorrow, we've got a faith rally. So Fred, can you tell us what's up with that?
I sure can.
You sure can.
So tomorrow at 6:30 on Zoom, Faith, which if you don't know stands for Fighting Against Injustice Towards Harmony. We're a coalition of 30 congregations from across Fallujah County that come together to do social justice by looking at problems in the community and finding solutions, and then working with the stakeholders, public officials, decision makers in our community to get something done. Our action assembly this year is March 28th at the Daytona Beach Drive-In Church. That's where all of the politicians come, and we ask them to commit to what we've researched and what we know is a solution. And tomorrow night at the rally, we are getting excited about what we're going to be asking. The research committees are going to present their findings and say this is what we're asking for this year. And you get a little bit of an inside look at who is coming to the action, the public officials, and what we think might be some of their excuses. And we just kind of all get prepared and organized for that all-important March 28th. At 6:30, but tomorrow night 6:30 as well. It's on Zoom, and the way that you access it, you go to faithfallujah.org, and then right on the website there's a button that says Enter Rally. So you click that, put in your information, and then you're entered into the meeting.
And we'll make sure.
March 28th. All you have to do if you don't want to go to the drive-in church, just tune in on Zoom because they count heads. The more people show up, the more of a political statement it makes, and the more effective it is in the eyes of the politicians.
So those of you,
I'm gonna edit that a little bit. So this year,
it's okay. He didn't make it online because he wasn't holding a mic.
Do
so
what?
He didn't make it to the online feed
okay,
because he wasn't holding a mic.
He brought up a good point.
You can amend that in the room. Yeah.
Last year was our first year doing a drive-in action assembly. So we also offered a online streaming option. I think we did it over Facebook. What we found was that most people, if given the option, will stream it online, which makes a lot of sense. I probably would too. But what we found is that to really let public officials know that the community cares about something, we got to get a large group of people together. So when our county council looks out and they see 1,400 people, and they can barely fit at the drive-in church, all in their vehicles or out of their vehicles in lawn chairs, then they start to really understand the importance of what we're asking. So this year, the only options will be to go in person at the drive-in church, or if you don't want to go to the east side of the county, at Our Lady of the Lakes in Deltona, they're having a watch party for anyone on the west side that would rather not drive that far. But we really encourage you, if you can, to come to the drive-in action assembly on the 28th. And if you don't have a ride, I'm sure people here are going to carpool, and it'll be fun.
Awesome. Yeah. That sounds great, Fred. Thank you. I know that, was it last year that we did it at the drive-in? I brought the kids and we let them poke out of the sunroof, and they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Every time somebody says something that we're trying to celebrate, people honk. It's cool. It's a good time. You really get the sense that you're a part of something. And we talk a lot about people power, and I think there's a lot more power in a bunch of people in a parking lot than there are like views. I think people are kind of sick of the number of Zoom views. So, and the truth is we want to get out and be supportive also. So thanks, Fred. We'll try and get something out on Facebook tomorrow with the link for the Zoom for the rally, and then we'll keep drumming up support for the action assembly. I'm going to be negotiating, right?
That's right.
Is that okay? Cool. So I'm going to get to put on my clergy collar and tell the elected officials that we expect them to do what we want them to, right?
That's right.
And
sometimes politicians will try to weasel and say an answer that's not quite yes and not quite no, and it's going to be Ben's job to make sure we get a firm answer out of them, either yes or no.
Right, and you guys know I like conflict. So this is going to be fun. I'm eager. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good time. Awesome. Thank you, Fred.
All right, so Tuesday, We've got our special Work of the People event here on 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. You can RSVP on Facebook. I think we will have a Zoom component for that, right?
Yes, yeah, we will have a Zoom on there.
So please come to this event if you want to help Ben plan out not only the next few weeks of services, which are going to be more political content than usual, but also the series that we'll be doing beyond these FAQ questions.
Yeah.
So if you want to help shape what we're doing at Collective, this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, this coming Tuesday is that opportunity. So we'll talk about this is all kind of building up to Easter, what's going to happen after Easter, what's going to be the content in the services, what are kind of the focus going to be of the church. So we'll talk about that a little bit on the Tuesday night.
Okay. Teams and needs. So the March email went out on Tuesday. I don't know if everyone saw it. So I'm going to ask that if you did get that email, please email me back just so I know that you got it. If not, then I'm going to send out another email just to verify. From Kenny. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we'll keep it personal. What's from Kenny?
Yeah. And we need snacks. Since we're having kids every week now, we have programming, and we have...
You can hear them. They're back there causing
they're having
shenanigans.
a lively discourse in the back.
Sure. Spirituality's happening.
Yeah. So they need to eat. So if you can provide snacks or have anything, we would very much appreciate that. And as always, planning is the practice. Plan now to do what you might not feel like doing later this week. Showing up, giving, and serving are how we practice together.
Yeah, so like in other churches, they might be like, okay, everybody pause, we're going to pray together. But instead, we're like, everybody pause, we're going to put the 28th on our calendar so that we're all at the Daytona Christian Drive-In Church together to do people power for faith and justice, right? No one pulls their phone out. They're like, we'll pray. We'll just pray. We'll see about it. We'll get back to you on whether or not we do phone things. All right, so we're going to sit together and kind of downshift into some silence. We're going to ask you to join us for a couple minutes in returning to your attention. That may be your experience of the true self, God. That may be a sense of your center or emptiness or anywhere in between. The invitation is to sink into that and to breathe and listen as if your senses are searching for something. And your mind will wander, you'll get distracted. The invitation is to just come over and over to your breath without judgment, just to notice, be a scientist of your experience. You can use the drone footage as that best helps you to survey your inner landscape. May the silence allow us to contemplate what we want the ceremony to accomplish for us: humility, spiritual rebirth, strength for what lies ahead. Breathe. It's all right. It's so loud you can't hear the bell for meditation. It's Bike Week, and our kids' ministry is growing, so thank you for attempting to meditate with us. That's where real meditation is learned, in that distracting chaos. All right.
Stunning 8K resolution meditation out in honor of the revolution. It's half off at the Gap. Deadpool self-awareness, loving parents, harmless fun. The backlash to the backlash to the thing that's just begun. There it is again, that funny feeling, that funny feeling. There it is again, that funny feeling, that funny feeling. The Surgeon General's pop-up shop, Robert Iger's face, the discount at Agitprop, the Bugle's take on race, the female Colonel Sanders' easy answer, Civil War, the whole world at your fingertips, the ocean at your door, the live-action Lion King, Pepsi halftime show. 20,000 years of this, 7 more to go. Carpool karaoke, Steve Aoki, Logan Paul. A gift shop at the gun range, a mass shooting at the mall. Funny feeling, there it is again, that funny feeling, that funny feeling. Reading Pornhub's terms of service, going for a drive, and obeying all the traffic laws in Grand Theft Auto 5. Full agoraphobic, losing focus, cover blown. A book on getting better, hand delivered by a drone. Total disassociation, fully out your mind. Googling derealization, hating what you find. That unapparent summer air in early fall, quiet comprehending of the ending of it all. There it is again, that funny feeling, that funny feeling. There
a gift shop at the gun range, a mass shooting at the mall. All right, I'm going to read something. All right, I'll say it more clearly. I'm going to read the Bible. This is from the book of Romans, chapter 7. So it's Paul's letter to a group of people in Rome. And Paul's using a lot of religious language. But I'm going to ask you to experience what's under the religious language because I think there's mental health events happening in Paul's life. So he says, as we know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual, right? As a therapist, you first go, what do you mean by that? What do you mean, Paul? What do you mean unspiritual? What's spiritual? So I am unspiritual, sold as a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. If you're not keeping up, that's okay. It's the Bible. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me. Are we hearing some diagnoses here? For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it. Theology, multiple personalities, what are we talking about here? So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being, I delight in God's law, but I see another law at work in me, waging against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. Now, I don't care about your particular religious convictions or the language you need, but I think that the people that wrote these texts understood what it meant to be in mental health crisis. You know, Paul writes a lot of letters from prison, so I think they get what that means. These are important things to talk about. This is a safe place to talk about them. So let's do that. Now may the words of our mouths, where'd my candle go? May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts grant us not only the light of wisdom to understand these words, but the fire of conviction to put them into practice. Amen. I've said this a couple times. We're in this kind of series of answering frequently asked questions for the sake of SEO optimization. So basically, what are people looking for who are looking for a church? What questions are they trying to answer? So we answered those, but maybe not as a way of saying, come answer those questions in conversation with us. This is another example, and all of these we've kind of been going through and we'll show the video and then kind of talk about it. This is a good example, I think, for me of the video is the sermon, and then we can sort of talk about it after that, because I think I said what I wanted to. So this is the sermon, and then we're going to discuss really what does it mean for us now to practice these convictions in sort of the community we're in and in the time we find ourselves in. So rock and roll. Can spirituality help my anxiety, depression, and loneliness? Yes, it can. I mean, there's all the science and data, but there's a lot less data that religious beliefs do anything at all, whereas spiritual community and practices seem to have a pretty profound effect. And yeah, your too good to be true radar should be going off, because spiritual practices and community alone are very often not enough to touch the depths of mental health struggle, depression, anxiety, loneliness. My family dealt with this firsthand when a family member had a bipolar break and needed serious psychiatric help. Prayers and exorcisms weren't enough, and they actually did much more harm than good. What we needed was inpatient psychiatric care, therapy, psychiatry. A quiet mind is what they call it. Sometimes this is necessary, even and especially for spiritual people. I talk often and openly about how essential my journey with therapy and psychiatry has been. Or maybe you've heard about Collective's counseling co-op, about our death cafes, or some of the other things we do to directly engage mental health as an expression of our congregation's spirituality. So yeah, with some caveats and a lot of humble self-awareness, Spiritual practices and spiritual community have helped our little congregation with anxiety, depression, and loneliness. We certainly hope they can help you too. There's a place for you here. Our sincere hope is that Collective is a place for anyone, but we know it's not for everyone. If you think it might be a place for you, we hope that you'll bring all your questions and your sense of humor. But enough about us. We really are so curious about you. Please join us Sunday nights at 5 here in downtown DeLand or at wearecollectivechurch.com. Your presence makes us who we are, and there's a place for you here. How many of you, your initial feelings about mental health or therapy or whatever were pejorative? There was some sense of like, oh, weak people go to therapy, like a negative connotation. I'm asking like if some of your first experiences with mental health or with the idea of therapy or the idea that you needed mental help, if that was a negative experience. Share a little bit what you guys talked about when we asked that question, sort of what are your current feelings about mental health, and have those always been your feelings? What did you guys find? Mary's got a mic for you. Yeah, Chase, right here.
So currently, what we were talking about and what I currently said is there's a wide acceptance in Western culture that if I eat a lot of salt, sugar, fats, that's going to have an impact on, let's say, my heart, my liver, kidneys, etc. But we don't seem to accept that, yes, the organ is also a brain, and those things can have the same impact. If I look at someone with jaundice, you can clearly see them and like, you should probably go to a doctor, dude. Meanwhile, if I run into someone who's bipolar and I just see him on the street, I cannot fully understand or grasp the abstract existence that they are currently experiencing.
Yeah, there's such a wide symptomology for the phrase mental health. Great point. Great point. Thanks, Chase. You going? We'll just go to that.
And I was just saying that I was so happy that people are willing to talk about mental health now.
Yeah.
Unlike 30 and 40 years ago that you were afraid to talk about it. And people were afraid to seek help for fear that people would think they were weird and not and a lot of people thought that way. And even now, I've had some friends that were Baker Act, and it scared me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't a good friend.
We don't need to jump that far.
Yeah.
You not knowing what to do doesn't equal you not being a good friend.
But when we first started the conversation, Chase was talking about if you have a knee problem or whatever, you see the doctor and diagnosis, which is different than all the things that relate to mental health. I was blessed, if you will, being director of pastoral care, second largest medical center in the U.S., regional in Germany. But we had a staff. The overview was for holistic health. It was a combination of the mental, the physical, and the spiritual. And those three things work in concert. That's what promotes wellness, you see. So we were blessed there because we had the psychiatrists, we had the physicians, and then we had the chaplain staff to help facilitate that.
Yeah.
But one of the other things we talked about was shame, and how we tended to shame people. It's their fault somehow or other, and that sort of thing. And, how do we respond to this now? And are we more enlightened and that sort of thing? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. That was a great share from that table. I think part of what I'm trying to illustrate from the way people are sharing is I see a number of younger people in the room, and I want to make sure the younger people know, either through their family or from a congregation that they're a part of, that this is relatively recent, that talking about mental health positively, openly, especially in contexts like professionally, that's relatively new, and that for a long time it has been sort of stigmatized. And so, yeah, I'm glad to hear you share that, Karen, and I wanted to kind of get not just to say that this is the history, but also to point out that in the same ways that we are trying to pave paths for the queer community to be fully included, we're also trying to pave paths for people who have struggled with mental health to be fully included because they haven't been able to be, they haven't been safe to be. So that's part of the importance of having these conversations in the room. And I wanted to just, I think, own that I personally, and I think this is probably true for other people, maybe mostly like straight, white, affluent people, but I grew up with like a negative sense of if I needed therapy, that was like a weakness thing until I needed it and it worked, which is very often like the way that works. So I think that our own mental health and our views about mental health are a part of the journey that we talk about in the community statement every week, right? We're all on the journey. We don't all feel the same now about mental health as we used to. We probably won't always. So let's hold that loosely and gracefully. Jim.
I want to push back a little bit on what you said, that
Yes! Finally, collective, let's do it.
I began a graduate program in counseling in 1976, and back then it seemed like everybody wanted to be a therapist, and those people that couldn't be a therapist, they wanted to be in therapy. Therapy was tremendously popular. I saw this film, and it showed all of these people in the state mental hospital, and it showed these heroic therapists that were working to place them into nice little apartments in the community. So therapists were like total heroes. Everybody wanted to be a therapist. Everybody wanted to be in therapy. 1976.
Yeah, well, and I think that, yeah, not only does that show you the broad range of how people felt, but also just where you are at what time and how those particular, communities shape that. Yeah, if you were in an area and a field and a place that was pro-therapy, absolutely.
I'm going to push back on both of you.
Easy does it. We're not about violence here.
No. But, when we
Nudge.
talk about the current conversation around mental therapy, so when I was still on active duty, the Department of Defense loves surveys. Tell us what you're thinking. They just love sending out surveys. One of the common questions that you'd see is, do you think if you were to see a therapist that would have a negative impact on your career? And they're pushing out all these things these days, like it's okay to talk to a therapist, which is great, but I also at the same time remember we had one of our armors who had a suicidal ideation. When you have a suicidal ideation, one of the first things that you have to do is make sure that they do not have access to any weapons. So you're not allowed near the armory. If you have any personal weapons, those get locked up in the armory. This cat was an armorer. So he could not go into the armory and do his job. So to think that does not have a negative impact on your career,
Yeah.
and discourages people from seeking mental help.
Yeah. And at the same time, we all say, thank God that he spoke up.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you guys. Yeah, Heather, go.
Yeah, I want to go off on a little bit of a different tangent, if I may.
Just no pushing, please.
I'll try not to be too much. But one of the things I've noticed over the 10 years that I worked in community mental health and child welfare was the huge connection between mental health and community health. Now mental health is very complicated, and people suffer particularly from depression, anxiety, and loneliness for many reasons. Some of them originate in their brains. Some of them originate from their backgrounds, and a whole bunch of other things. But the people that I worked with for those 10 years, I would say the vast majority of them were anxious and depressed and lonely, not because necessarily they had a mental health concern, but they had real concerns because they were living in communities where they didn't know they were going to get food. They couldn't afford shelter. They couldn't afford access to a therapist or a doctor if they got sick. So these aren't, they come under the umbrella of mental health, absolutely, yeah. And mental health treatment is definitely a starting point about how to deal with them, but the underlying cause, these were not irrational fears. These were not irrational thoughts. They were real fears. You know, the housing is just unaffordable. The wages are the lowest in the country. Access to any kind of health care depends on you having a good job and good income.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's why it's so important that we do things like faith.
Yeah.
Because if you want to fix some of the mental health concerns that we have in this country, you have to fix the community health first.
Amen, amen. Thank you. Yeah, very well said. Yeah, we need to understand the intersectional nature of the work we're doing, and that, I think the direct service, instant gratification capitalist version of us wants to say, all right, if what people need is therapy, let's just give therapy to everybody. And I think part of what Heather's saying is we need to give therapy to the people that need therapy now. We also need 16,000 new affordable housing units in Volusia County in the next 10 years, or all those people are going to really struggle with their mental health, regardless of their mental health issues, because they have nowhere to live. Is that a fair summary? Okay, let me, hold on. Let me see what we got here. Yeah. We can do a couple more. We're good.
When I was a kid, there was a lady who would walk the town dressed in black, and she would pick up all the litter and talk to herself. And she's very scary. There was nothing wrong with picking up the litter, but it was just bizarre. She'd talk to the litter, talk to herself, not people. And it was scary. It was mysterious. It was really spooky. And turns out, I found out she lost her husband and child in a car accident. She was traumatized. Mm-hmm. And it was still a mystery to me. What do you do for a person like this? So to me, the lack of mental health is a scary mystery. It was dark. And after 33 years of being involved in the field, I find that most people, not everybody, but most people are walking around with this bomb jacket that was put on them, metaphorically, by other people. And every once in a while, because of trauma, every once in a while, one of these bombs will go off and wreak havoc in their life. And they don't even know that it's because of the bomb jacket and the negative core beliefs that got installed by trauma. And until that gets healed and changed, they don't take the jacket off. But they can be shown, and they can recover. And it's not a mystery. It is mystery to some degree, because every human being's a mystery. But it's not a dark, scary mystery. People can recover from trauma.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. This is a great lead-in. I think we had, I don't even know what, yeah. Sure. No. Go in. Let's. Go for
it. I am grateful that we live at the time that we live.
Come on.
And that we have, that's a super privileged thing to say, right? Because it's like we live in the United States where when your friend or your relative gets diagnosed, you can just like pull out your phone and like Google the thing.
Yeah.
You know? But I grew up with my grandma. We do not know what that was about. But I'm getting to watch Margot kind of Margot is my kid, relive the same kind of situation, because my father-in-law lives with us and he's manic depressive. And the difference between when I was raised and just, your grandma's crazy, period, that's it. We don't know why she does what she does, she's just crazy. Where Margot, I can explain, well, Grampy's brain doesn't do this and that and the other. Oh. And so this is why not only does he take medication, but we have him with us to make sure that every day he knows he has family and that he's loved.
Yeah.
And we put posters, I've put posters up in our house and reminding him, because when the medications stop working or he needs an adjustment, the voices in his mind will tell him that I don't want him there. And so on his door, every day he can see, we love you, this is your home, and we've signed it for him. But this was only possible because I could research and I could literally have a doctor tell me, oh, this is his brain. It's shrunk to like the size of a fist when it should be this big instead, right? Yeah. And that's like, we are so blessed and privileged to be able to have this access.
Yeah.
And I've just seen the difference in my own lifetime, right? Like, wow.
Yeah. part of what I'm hearing you guys say is that there's immense value in other people helping us see mental health in ways that we can't always see on our own, whether that's people of expertise, whether it's people that help us see our own selves or help us translate what we're feeling, that it's really helpful to have guides. It's helpful to have people who can kind of show us the way, information when we need it. Where did Mary go? Oh, good. Ninja. We're talking about, and you guys illustrated this really beautifully, we're talking about the struggles of the people that you all love the most. And I mean, like literally looking at people in the room, the conversations I've had with people in the room this week about the people they love whose lives are falling apart due to mental health. We're also talking about the people that you can't stand, the people whose names you have a tough time saying, and the truth that the evil you see in them and that the harm that they've done to you might actually be sickness and not malice. We're talking about systems. You guys just said this. We're talking about discrimination. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about access, which means we're talking about homelessness. We're talking about the impacts of little things like social media and pharmacology and the healthcare system and the military-industrial project and the sociological impact of mass PTSD over not years but over decades. We're talking about me, my mental health, as I lead you all, and we're talking about you. We're talking about your mental health because it is not different than your spirituality. Your spiritual life is your life. Your mental health is your spirituality. And part of what is great from the number of stone hops and pushbacks and jump offs and everything we just did is that really what I want to say is we can't cover it all tonight. We can't possibly, right? And we've had a little bit as a country to solve mental health, and we haven't done it. So we're probably not going to do it tonight. What I want to say about mental health, about depression, anxiety, and loneliness, is also tough to know when people are fleeing for their lives, right, around the earth, and many not successfully. People are dying in 2022 in a war on the other side of the world, and we are attempting to satisfy the dissonance in our brains with sanctions. What does that do to our mental health? We're talking about living under the fear of nuclear war, like practical stuff. Do I cry about the fact that it's tough to pay rent, or do I go get surf and turf because Putin might push the button tomorrow? What do days like this do to mental health? What about being locked up for 2 years in a pandemic that got politicized in such a way that it further isolated and depressed, especially people who are already sick? We can't possibly cover all this tonight. And really what I want to do is I want to say 2 things. Most of the time, spirituality alone is not the answer. Most of the time, spirituality alone is not the answer. And here's what I mean. If you are already in great mental health, and what you're looking for is like spiritual growth and spiritual community, probably spirituality is the answer. If you are not mentally well, chemically, emotionally, however you want to define it, probably expecting spirituality to resolve that is not the path you want to take. I said in the video, the too good to be true radar should be going off. Because practices and community are great, but those things alone can do more harm than good. And I shared about my family member, my younger brother, who went through that and how harmful it was. It was really kind of an experience of violence from the church towards my brother and towards my family. Without knowing, they meant well, but it made things far worse than it did help. I was listening to the most recent Rob cast. This is Rob Bell. He has a podcast, and he was interviewing one of his friends named Christian Washington, who's like one of the largest sort of black evangelical preacher kind of, and he was talking to Rob about the fact that there's this like, there's this revival within the black church now, like with recent 6 months or a year, where like it's starting to be okay to go to therapy. And he's like, I'm a huge black like leader in the black church. And he's like, you know, a year ago, I would have been worried about being like canceled or like being shunned for talking openly about going to therapy. And he said, because for the longest time, black people didn't go to therapy, they went to church. They didn't go to therapy and they went to church. And I thought, well, that's, you know, obviously, it's like taking longer to get into black culture, but that's what happened, I think, in white culture. That probably happens as cultures shift from what we call a phase of social development that's more magical thinking. There's forces outside of ourselves. We've got to keep the gods happy. And we transition to more of a rational scientific, like we can study now, we understand mental health. The more we see, right, we get new languages, we get new lenses to talk about the human experience. Right? The way Paul writes it 2,000 years ago could be the clinical notes for somebody who's experiencing something very much like that mental health crisis today. So, very often spirituality alone is not the answer. And then the other thing I want to say is that very often spirituality is the answer. That spiritual community and spiritual practices can help. I couldn't find any. I don't think there's a ton of evidence that believing things does a ton for your mental health. But there's lots of research. And even stuff like research about praying and about being prayed for practices, right? Practices, not beliefs. Getting together with people, as you can imagine, that has positive impacts on mental health. Being social. So things like congregations, things like rituals, things like doing repetitive things together with faces you recognize that smile at you. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, sure, right. Well, it's church, so there will be both. So what are these practices, right? And some of these go back to like what you learn in kindergarten when you're about to have a tantrum, right? Breathe and count to 10. So prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it, there's good practices. They're obvious. Breathe. Venting in the church for a long time, we've had a thing called confession. Just not good to bottle it up. It's good to tell somebody. Around here, part of our practice, we mentioned in the video, is partnering with and contributing and being supportive of the counseling co-op. Can we get the mic over to Dave and Michelle? Actually, I'm going to ask them to share respectively before we wrap up. Part of our, so I guess I'll say it like this. Our personal practice that I want to invite us into is an elevated awareness of our own mental health and also the ability to support one another as we learn about our mental health, as we wrestle with mental health with our kids, with our families. So we can do that individually. We can check on each other. Dave, stop making jokes for 2 seconds. It's not on. So we can do those on our own. We can do that week to week, day to day, checking in on ourselves, checking on others, promoting conversations about mental health, all that stuff. Communally, corporately, part of our practice is connecting with the counseling co-op. So Dave, tell us a little bit about that and what we could do practically to help support the co-op.
So this is a live mic. We have been in existence for, November, December, January, February.
Hold it up a little more.
Months. Yeah. It is loud if I hold it here.
Right.
Do you really want me to hold it this high?
I mean, so focus on the word a little more, that I said, just a little more. So not more? In your mouth, but maybe halfway. Yeah, there you
Back
go.
Here. Okay. We've been in existence for 4 or 5 months now. A few of the things that you guys can do if you're looking for practical ways to kind of get involved with mental health and the mental health community is honestly spreading the word about the co-op and what the co-op does. Your social media, your Instagram, Facebook, you're just talking about the fact that there is an organization in town that's attempting to provide community mental health in some ways. We have groups that we're offering. My Parents of Kids on the Autism Spectrum group has 4 parents or 4 families, I guess, right now that are participating, that are coming together because there's isolation amongst that community. We have a new group that's going to be starting for people who are diagnosed with HIV. There's a group that Ella will be starting here shortly. And so spreading the word about some of those groups, because the reality is we don't have money to go spend on a bunch of SEO and ads and all kinds of stuff to put stuff online to try to get people to show up. That's going to happen through word of mouth. In the month of January and the beginning part of February, we committed a little over $2,000 in scholarships to mental health care for people that couldn't afford it. Money runs thin when it comes for that. So if you guys have the funds or know people that would like to donate so other people can get counseling services they couldn't otherwise get, we're trying to fill the gap for those that potentially don't have health care, or to help. There's lots of services for the Medicare and Medicaid population in our area. There are almost no services for people that are slightly above that line but can't actually afford to come to counseling. And so we're attempting to meet some of that need.
Awesome.
Anything else you would say?
So if they want to connect with the services or refer people, the DeLandCounselingCoop.com?
Yeah, DeLandCounselingCoop.com. You can also donate there. You can sign up for an email newsletter, which will put some of the word out. Also, the 7th of April? I believe it's the 7th of April. We should be hosting a community mental health event here. It's a Thursday evening. I guess I should get with Tosh to actually put that on a calendar. And it will be focusing specifically around stigma and shame in mental health. We'll talk a little bit about addictions, and then we're doing suicide prevention training, QPR training, for every individual that's there to help you become kind of a first responder for suicide prevention. We talk about everyone should be CPR certified to save a life. QPR, very similar. We have the ability to save lives through being trained on how to respond.
That's awesome. I also think that's pretty badass if somebody's like, what are you guys doing at church? What's your spiritual practice? You'd be like, I'm getting QPR trained. That's my practice. I think that's awesome.
I also want to throw my partner here under the bus. He's reading about neurocognitive disorders out of the DSM-5 right now.
Who's
while
that,
you were
Jim?
reading about Googling dissociation. I just wanted to throw
Fantastic. Well, and that's, I was at a clergy meeting this week, and they said anytime you get, 10 clergy together, you get 15 opinions. It's the same with all the mental health professionals in here. So I'm going to get up here and preach on mental health to you all, but
We all believe the same thing. I mean,
Of
Bill
course,
and I
yeah.
are exactly the same in the way we treat people. Everything's the same. Nothing's changed about the field. Jim and I were actually talking just a second ago about, so the DSM-2. The DSM is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. So this is full of all the different diagnoses that you can be given today. The DSM-2 that he started under was like yay big versus giant.
right.
So what's interesting is, and Fred, I was going to ask you this question, so you can turn his mic on. Is music for you more intellectual or artistic?
I will go with artistic.
Okay.
Final answer.
When you started playing music, was it more intellectual or artistic?
Phone a friend. It was about the girls.
That's yeah.
Well, but
I was trying to find a way to say that.
But
Yeah.
the actual physical playing of the guitar, did you have to think about what you were doing when you learned
Yes,
to
a
play?
lot more. A lot
Okay.
more. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So you tried to intellectually learn how to do this thing. Well, the problem with our emotional systems and our brain is we cannot logic our way to understand all the things and all the complexities of humans. And this book will continue to get larger as we try to intellectually say, how are people different? Almost every one of these disorders, it says in here, does it affect normal functioning, normal daily functioning? There is no normal daily functioning, and as long as we say some people are normal and some people aren't, we'll continue to give diagnoses to people.
Right.
Sorry, I have opinions on mental health.
That's why I asked you to come and take a microphone.
That's okay. And Michelle, your turn.
Michelle, go ahead and take that. I'll ask you a question. Please, just take it from Dave, even if I don't ask you it. just please. So one of the other things that we do, and I'm putting this under mental health because I think there are also many people for whom their expectations of religion or spirituality and probably their expectations of good therapy or mental health have something to do with coming to terms with their mortality, coming to terms with death, coming to terms with loss. And so that's something we've tried to do for a long time, is be what we call very death positive. And so we've done events that have to do with that. Most recently, we've done death cafes. So Michelle, share a little bit about Death Cafe and what it does.
Sure.
Wish we had close-ups. We would get really like the sitcom vibe here.
For those that don't know, we're also neighbors.
Yes.
It just never
And Michelle
ends.
also is a counselor in the co-op.
Yes. As is Bill. So this is a movement that started really in Europe with the kind of cafe culture of sitting outside at a cafe table, discussing whatever philosophy, whatever the topic of the day is. So out of that, I think in Switzerland or Sweden, people started gathering specifically to discuss death, mortality, the one thing that every single person on this earth has in common. Why not? So we have kind of our own version of a death cafe here. And of course, there's coffee. Across the ocean, they do tea and crumpets, I guess. I don't know. Where's Heather? I don't know. So we do coffee and we talk about whatever comes up. There's no agenda. There's no set of questions. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. The point is to have this thing, this mortality that we all deal with, some of us more closely than others, and to start to de-taboo it as a topic, because there's so much healing that can happen. And when we take this death positive approach, we're allowing ourselves the chance to start healing. Especially after the last couple of years. I also work at the hospital. It is a topic that it's no respecter of your political ideology or your faith background or, frankly, how good of a job you did isolating and wearing a mask and using hand sanitizer. This is all a death at the largest level of community that, whether we want to or not, we've been experiencing. So now, there's no time like now to come
Right.
to Death Cafe.
Well, and that's in the same way we talk about a communal practice of mental health and our spirituality. There's also these huge communal effects. Like we're having mental health events as societies because we're having losses as societies on such huge levels. I don't know if you guys saw this week, but our governor screamed at some high school students for wearing masks at a press conference and basically said, you've got to quit it with this COVID theater. He might not be aware of the 70,000 people that have died in Florida, but I think as long as our messaging is that COVID is theater, then death is not real. We don't have to deal with it. It's a ridiculous kind of sweeping under the rug of the reality that we have to deal with. I mean, that's 70,000 friends and families in our state care. They have mental health needs related to the loss of people that they've loved. And that's just COVID related. People have also lost tons of people this year in many, many other ways. And we need places that are safe to talk about that. And to destigmatize it.
Can I say something real quick?
You can. Can we get Kenny on?
So we actually do have a death cafe coming up. We have one scheduled. So it's coming up on Good Friday.
Well, I had no idea. Thank you for telling us that.
It's not on Facebook yet. This is.
I know, I'm kidding. So Good Friday, if you don't know, Good Friday is when Jesus dies. So that's why we're doing Death Cafe on that day.
Yeah.
Did you say finally? I thought you were like, it's been a long Lent, finally. Let's get to Easter now already. Okay, so if you wonder what we do at Death Cafe, we laugh at death a lot. So yes, Death Cafe, Good Friday, what time?
It's in the middle of the day. It's
Lunch.
Like noon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we also have a Good Friday service.
Right, there's Good Friday service also.
Yeah.
Planning is the practice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let me wrap up with, I'm gonna ask, I guess maybe Dave to come and read this. We're gonna have Dave share this. He's the one that showed me this poem, but it's from a guy that he and I both know, Jamie Torkowski, who started an organization called To Write Love on Her Arms that, handles all the stuff we've been talking about. So why don't you go for that, and then we'll come to the table.
Odin wants to read.
If you feel too much, there's still a place for you here. If you feel too much, don't go. If this world is too painful, stop and rest. It's okay to stop and rest. If you need a break, it's okay to say you need a break. This life, it's not a contest, not a race, not a performance, not a thing that you win. It's okay to slow down. You are here for more than grades, more than a job, more than a promotion, more than keeping up, more than getting. This life is not about status or opinion or appearance. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to fake it. Other people feel this way too. If your heart is broken, it's okay to say that your heart is broken. If you feel stuck, it's okay to say that you feel stuck. If you can't let go, it's okay to say that you can't let go. You are not alone in these places. Other people feel how you feel. You are more than just your pain. You are more than your wounds, more than drugs, more than death and silence. There is still some time to be surprised. There is still some time to ask for help. There is still some time to start again. There is still some time for love to find you. It's not too late. You are not alone. It's okay, whatever you need and however long it takes, it's okay. It's okay. If you feel too much, there's still a place for you here. If you feel too much, don't go. There is still some time.
We're going to come in a moment and receive the good gift of the Eucharist. This is a meal that symbolizes the open table and the humanity of God in each person that comes. We call this the body of Christ. And I want to remind us tonight that the humanity of God includes the mental health, the feelings, the emotions, the good and the bad of the people who make up the body of Christ. May this table open us in vulnerability to feel more loved. May it give us the courage to be more loving. As always, this table is set for us and for all people, and no one will ever be turned away. When you're ready, come and share with one another this meal and these words, bread for the journey and nourishment for the soul. I believe we have Margot serving tonight with us, right? Awesome. Come when you're ready.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend just might have a problem that you'd understand. 'Cause we all need somebody to lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. 'Cause we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. 'Cause we all need somebody to lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you don't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
So, thank you for joining us in person and online this evening. And thank you again for making financial support a part of your practice by visiting collectivegives.com. And you can make your plan to stay connected with us by visiting wearecollectivechurch.com. You can update your preferences to customize your engagement. And if you're willing to share what you found and make it easier for others to find it also, you can give us a review on Facebook or Google. You can share the videos also and invite others into the conversation. For benediction this evening, a poem by Britton Oakman. I lied and said I was busy. I was busy, but not in a way most people understand. I was busy taking deeper breaths. I was busy silencing irrational thoughts. I was busy calming a racing heart. I was busy telling myself I am okay. Sometimes this is my busy, and I will not apologize for it.
Bob, you deserve it. All right, let's bring our hands together as a symbol of our intention. First to our foreheads for clarity of thought, to our lips for clarity of speech, to our hearts for clarity of action, so that in all that we say and do, love would be our first thought, our first word, and our first deed. Grace and peace. You can leave the